I used to serve as a youth director for some time. Here in Dallas, Texas, I served as a youth director for 3 years throughout my studies. And in serving as a youth director, what I realized is that you come across so many different people who have so many different backgrounds. And not only youth, because I had to deal with the whole community, you know? So you come across so many people who have so many different backgrounds, and the Quran is so vast. It's so vast, and the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are so miraculous that they can apply to anybody, and they can apply to anybody in anyone's situation. And it's a toolbox. Literally, the Quran is a toolbox for them, for people to be able to get through life. And so when I would talk to the youth in my community and you know, advising them and stuff, a lot of what I advise them, a lot of what I tell them is based off of Quran. And I will tell them like, oh, there's an ayah where Allah talks about this. Because sometimes we shy away from telling them an ayah because we don't want to be too religious to the youth. That's not a thing. You are to be very clear, you know, you be straight up, you know, they know that I'm like, I work in a religious institution. What do I mean? I'm not going to tell you an ayah. Like, I'm going to tell you an ayah, but I'm going to give you the understanding of it that you need to understand, you know? And so, for example, we would go through, we went through the story of Musa alayhi salam, which I think is perfect to go through for youth because, you know, there's so many aspects of Musa alayhi salam's life. And we talk about forgiveness in that. We talk about, you know, when your back's against the corner, what do? You make dua to Allah. How? We talk about life struggles. The fact that, like, you know, Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him this heavy mission. And he feels really stressed out about it. And what does he do? He asks Allah, Rabbi shrah li sadri, oh Allah, open my chest for me. Wa yassir li amri, and make my matter easy for me. And I will ask them, like, do you think that it's okay for you to ask for things to be easier? They're like, no, I feel like it makes me weak. Are you calling a prophet weak? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, look, see, you understand, like, God presents things for us so that we are able to get through life. So that's what it means by presenting the Quran in a relevant way for them, not just something that is like ancient or we have to twist and turn things for them to understand. There's no twisting and turning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is miraculous in his nature. He's miraculous in his speech. And he has given us this miraculous book to apply to our lives in all parts of our lifetime. And what we need to do for our youth is we need to listen. We need to sit down. We need to listen. We need to have conversations. Listening doesn't mean that you just agree with everything they say, but you actually are hearing what they say, what they're saying. And if there's some thought process that needs to be corrected, okay, you tweak it and you correct it. You know, you do it in a way that is loving, that is kind, that is compassionate, but firm. But you can still be loving, kind, and compassionate. You do it in accordance to Quran and Sunnah. But they have to, if they're not being listened to, then you coming and then presenting an ayah to them is just like, well, you're always telling me about the Quran and you never really want to listen to me. So I don't really know, like, you know, I don't understand why I'm here. I don't understand why we're having this conversation because nobody ever listens to me. But we have to listen and we have to bring the Quran in, bring it in the way that it was meant to be brought. Bring it in the way that it was revealed. And so I end off my opening statement with a narration from Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, that after the death and the passing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a companion came to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and he asked her, he says, Ya Ummul Mu'mineen, oh, the mother of believers, you know, he's addressing her in like a very, you would say, loving way. He says, tell me about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tell me what was the character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she replies to him, she says that the character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the Quran. And what that means is that the Quran was not just something that he read. It wasn't something that he just pulled out when he was giving advice to somebody, that it was the way that he lived his life. He embodied the Quran. He was a walking, talking emulation of the Quran. And that is what he would put onto his community members and his companions. And there's a reason why, you know, it took Umar bin Khattab 8 years to memorize Surah Baqarah. It's not by any means that he couldn't memorize it. It's for the simple fact that it was something that he would act upon it before he would even open his mouth to say that this is something that I memorized. And we have to present the Quran in the way that it was meant to be presented, as a means and a way of us living our life in the proper boundaries and the proper bounds in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us.